You're muted, Edgy.
Thank you. As I sit here this morning, I feel an increase in my own inner sense of power. I began feeling this about 3 or 4 years ago. But when you reach the deeper levels of your own self, something seems to happen. In the sense that the life force in me is felt so much more strongly than ever before. To use an analogy, I feel like the inner furnace is now burning at a hot rate rather than a cool or a warm rate. I feel the life force in me as the most powerful thing I've ever experienced. There's a kind of awe in me now of the strength of the life force within me. It makes me feel like a large boulder sitting alone somewhere in the woods with quiet. And I'm the biggest boulder in the woods. The wildlife can't touch me. What could a bear do except maybe shit on me? But the sense of power, what is it? And the only thing I can imagine it to be is my sense of the life within me. It's awesome. I feel awe. I'm completely protected. I don't know if anything is to be done with this, but what it makes me feel is immeasurably adaptive to my environment. Indeed, what Buddha said upon his own enlightenment, I feel so strongly. From the earth below to the sky above, I am the only one. Now you can spend lots of years trying to unpack that into what it means for you and for me. Because now that I'm feeling it and looking at it, that boulder I feel myself to be is now relocated onto a mountain. And in the stillness of my own mind and heart, I am complete. I'm whole. No need to move. No need to do anything. Besides, I have my son here, little Eddie, who decided to join Satsang today. And it's always really nice to have a fur box close by. Really, does anybody have any questions rather than just having me give a 20-minute talk? Go ahead.
Hi, Edgy. This is Bill. Now, the question. My question is: would you be willing to speak about Robert mentioned, and you have spoken on this, but he mentioned catching the split second in between sleeping and waking consciousness, and that split second could be caught. But I feel that there's many other ways to notice that split second between sleep and consciousness. Would you be willing to speak on that a little?
No. That sounds like a Robert thing. I don't know that I ever addressed that before, but I could say now my state approximates that of waking sleep in the sense that I feel so calm, but at the same time, awed by my own energies. And also, I have a very severe stomach ache going on right now, which is draining me of my attention or ability to attend. So, what I would like you to do is go away for 10 minutes or so I can come back and complete the talk. So let me go right now for a while, okay? 10 minutes or so.
Are you going to the bathroom?
Yeah.
We see you.
Well, that was some of the most severe stomach cramps I've ever experienced. And I lived through it. Thank you for bearing with me. But I'm no longer full of shit. So my words should be wiser now. Is there anything anyone really wants to know about who or what you are? What the path is, if there is a path to what? How to stop the mind?
Do you I'm sorry, let me get on. Do you ever reflect on the shower experience? I mean, I believe the totality of it, as you expressed, when the eye collapses or the mind collapses, that never happens again. I mean, you comport yourself in the world as someone different. Does that feel like, I mean, I don't know how to, I'm trying to fathom, the years that you spent in the absolute, the term that you described it as being boring, the Janet experience that brought you back, and how you conduct every satsang now out of like God manifest. I don't know if there's a question in there, except that somehow it's sort of like the movie I want what she's having. As I've always said to you, I want what you're having. So that's sort of my question.
I'll tell you what, I'll answer this indirectly, but the best way I know how. The way I feel now and experience life, experience my own body, my being alive, is that the outside world takes up only 20% of my mind attention, but most of my attention is fixated on me, not so much as a body, but as the sentience within that body. And if there's a cohesiveness enough in these energy streams that I'm feeling, that I can refer to myself as a being deserving of having a name. Because I feel this experience of the life force, which I know is in every one of you. When it turns its attention away from the world and into one's own depths, there's a new existence that happens to you. You're swimming in an ocean of consciousness that is yours alone. There may be other sentient beings, but the only things you can speak to is who and what you are. And if you can't do that, all that you can say is, nothing. There's nothing you can say. All that you can do is talk about your state. That's all you want to talk about, because to me, what I experience now in every moment is like a universal spirit, of which I am. The external world doesn't mean much to me. But the internal world is everything. As Buddha said, from the earth below to the sky above, I am the only one. Now, can you imagine what it feels to be totally insulated from the vagaries, whatever that means, of the external world? And that gives way to only apprehending my own consciousness and wondering about what's going on in there. There's no thinking or unconscious thinking in the processes going on. When I stop talking, there's absolute silence. And in that silence inside of me, where my body is located now, I feel like a vast giant who is containing the entire world within me. There's no wobbling about, no getting easily distracted, having 5 different things once to do. I don't even have one thing in a row to do, except for satsang. That's the only event I schedule ever. And the power I feel in me now is in no way human. The human personality is really superficial compared with what I experience now. And what I did is, over the years, learn how to invert my attention from the external world to my own inner darkness with a closed eye. Turn my attention around, first to my head and then down into my body. And the thing that's different is I don't feel a big desire to talk or to say anything or get anything from anybody or give anything to anybody. Transactionalism is gone. I don't feel transactional in any way. What I do feel is that I'm resting in myself And defining what that is really hard, because the experience is sort of a great elation as something remarkable has happened. Through our lives, we have these peak experiences. Where we feel strong, elated, joyful. And that's what I feel now, all the time. There's no Ed there anymore. Even in memory, I guess, is the closest I can do it. But what I feel is what I now call the zero state, which is to be without mentation, without desire, without the motivation to do anything or go anywhere. In this moment, I'm complete. With nothing to do or nowhere to go. I'm at rest. And coming to rest, my full attention is on me. And the feeling of joy and exultation that arises within me, and which I feel throughout my whole body, as constant activities of energy within me, spiraling everywhere. Chest, heart, gut, head, legs. And a profound sense of relief from the world, preoccupation with the world. I don't need to pay attention to what's happening in the world anymore, because what's going on within me is far more interesting and enlightening. I feel more than fine. And it's not normal human happiness at all. That's so temporary. But what I feel now is the same way I felt 5 years ago, but more intense. Somehow it feels like there's been a deepening in terms of the manifestation of the life force within. I feel how the life force directly marries into the body and the mind. But I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not even these ecstatic processes that I'm feeling now. I'm the one that's receiving all of these things. And there's no name for me. There's a depth in my consciousness now. Because I know I'm the beginning and end of the universe. It may be the small universe of this living room, or my house. But here, I'm the host. I watch these things come to me, bear them, then let them go. The stomach ache I just had was as violent as I've ever experienced. But even when it was happening, I didn't mind it. I just feel now so much joy that's pent up inside of me and wants to come out and touch every one of you and give you some. Maybe if you talk to Karima, she could say that she was in joy all the time being around me, but I don't think you'd ever get that out of her. My cats seem to dig me. So I don't know what to tell you. But being in yourself, embedding into your own sentience rather than the objects of sentience, the external world, is really a new way of being. You're well aware of how to take care of yourself in the world. You've been doing it for 30, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. So you don't have to attend much to that anymore. You've learned how to do that. What's new is the revelation of the life force within you and how it permeates and excites every cell in your body. And you just want to be still so that you don't miss anything within that which is being presented to you as your entitlement. The feeling of your own existence, raw, uncovered by intellect. And you are like the central furnace, the sun that illuminates all. Everything around you is reflected in me. The thing is, talking about this so intimately really isn't done usually. Because the words that express what I experience now don't exist. I can't describe it. I can't describe how holy it feels to be the source of sentience. And no matter how I look or how long I look, there's no center. There's no person that this is happening to. The person is floating somewhere else. I have no room for it in me anymore. Keep that phrase in mind by Buddha. From the earth below to the sky above, I am the only one. This means so many different things to different people. But in a sense, it means that the world is not real. It's an emanation of your mind. But what does that mean? It means don't take it too seriously. It's your play alone. You're the center. You're the repository of all experience. It flows from you. And the strange thing is, if you knew how powerful you were, nothing else would matter to you except your own experience of yourself, whatever that is, and it's indescribable. In it, there's a deep peace. You feel complete. And there's ecstasy throughout your whole body. There's no desire to do anything. You don't even want to think about what you're going to have for lunch or dinner. Or what to do about your spouse or your partner. None of that means anything when you're in the zero state. In the zero state, the world could come to an end and you wouldn't care. But your experience of the life force within you show you there's a difference between the life force in you as the perceiver, because you aren't really there. It's all one. Inner and outer are one. And what happens in the environment, even your own internal environment, doesn't matter that much. It's a derived phenomenality. That's part of the dream you're in. And where you are is outside of it entirely. Unless you turn your attention around so that you can enter the zero state. even waking and sleep come to you. And so-calledly announce themselves to you. But you have no apparent being. You're observing the whole show. And when you want to, you identify with something in the show. And then you appear to others as to wake up and become very joyful playing around with them in your show. There's only you, Jay. You alone. There's only you, Bernadette. You alone. Jackson, just you. Claudine, just you. Mark, just you. You're the center of the universe. This is how you would feel if you had never received an education at all that talks about science, external objects, internal objects, blood pressure, heart rates. All of that stuff is external. But you, as the zero state, experience all the other states of existence, of being conscious. You can't say you're consciousness because consciousness seems external to you. So what do you say? I don't know. But I do know that I feel complete and happy. Happy. Even stronger than happy. Explosively happy. Because you feel your own self. You know your own self. From the earth below to the sky above, I am the only one. You take ownership of the entire universe. But at the same time, you don't. It's very hard to explain. You know, I run out of ways of trying to explain it. And I think the best way to explain it is to be among you in silence. But people don't like to sit in silence. They feel they should be doing something. While they feel very rested and peaceful, maybe, somewhere inside of them, they feel a little restless because they think they should be doing something. There's one errand left undone. One postcard not sent. 3 bills not paid. 5 checks to be coming in, which you're waiting for. The mind is always busy trying to deal with the external world and also with my own reactions to the inner world. But if I let that all go and just be in the zero state, what happens is the center of my awareness drops down into my own sense of presence. And lights it with a divine fire. Of the self. Would I call it consciousness? No. That's the phenomenal aspect. If I characterized it as being peaceful, that would not explain the torrent of energy I feel flowing in me and around me. The energies in you, if you feel them or not, can become so ecstatic that you can't move for fear of losing it. No. Is there anything of what I said that's intelligible to you and that you want to know more or less about? What was that, Mark? What was the...
Yeah, it was intelligible to me. I do have a different question, if I may ask it.
Sure.
Okay. So you've been teaching and writing and, advising for many years, decades perhaps, or a decade, whatever, a long time. In your experience, what are some ways that thoughts, beliefs, the mind, whatever, assumptions, short-circuit the spiritual journey, unbeknownst to that who is trying to practice?
Can you restate that into something I can grasp?
Okay, so for those who are on this path, what are some ways that you have noticed in your experience that the ways that the mind can short-circuit practice unbeknownst to the person who is
What do you
trying to
mean by
practice?
short circuit?
Like nullify or keep it at stasis, keep it going sideways for a long time because the mind is interjected, at the beginning, unbeknownst to the person, because it's so insidious, or it's hard to, it may be hard to identify. Am I making sense, or?
Yeah, sort of, but my answer would be just as undefined as your question at this point, because there's no particular point. I could ask you the question of what is spirituality all about? And you could offer me an answer or 2 answers or 3, 5. We could check them with each other's answers to see if we can come up with a common understandable answer. But from my point of view, everything in spirituality is predetermined. There's nothing you can do about it except explore it. Explore your own existence. In a sense, it's been chosen for you by yourself at a very deep level. And in conscious life, you're just becoming aware of certain aspects of the totality of being alive. You get to a place where there's an almost continuous sense of awe. You look about and you're just awestruck by this existence of yours. Your ability to perceive trees and other people, to talk. It's incredible. So the underlying feeling of all of this is a sense of being awed by your own existence, of recognizing the divinity within you. When I first became aware of it, was another spirit within me, which I would call the divine. But over the years, that second entity grew and grew and sort of replaced little Eddie. With me. And I have no idea who or what I am. But what I do feel is a sense of awe at being alive and being conscious. Because I don't think anymore. I may watch television. But I don't need to do anything. I don't feel a push from inside or above or below to do anything or become anything, to grow more knowledgeable, to grow vaster in scope. I just am as I am. And there's a sense of profound resting in myself into this handshake with the life force, which is still, I feel, is separate from me, and yet me at the same time. You kind of develop a multi-level awareness. So what's true of me at one level is not true at another level. And it can become very confusing to somebody that's listening to you as to what the fuck you're talking about. I used to feel that all the time when I was around Sun San Sunim. Sansanim was an irrepressible force. little bald guy, 5'2", maybe. It sounds like little Eddie coughing. Sansanim was kind of a constant bundle of dynamite. When you sat and talked with him, it was like being alone with God and the universe all in one. Nothing important happened outside of you and him in the moment. He had boundless energy. And he was a complete master of his universe. There was an intensity in his presence that sort of brushed aside everything else in the room. It was as if the life force loved him so much that it wanted to be with him all the time. He had a smiling face always. And when he stood in front of you and talked to you, there was no one else in the world but you and him. He had a very large voice for a little man, which commanded your presence. And you waited to hear what he said. You could feel the energy of his being. Just as I could feel the energy of my first teachers, all Buddhist monks. After enlightenment, you live the life divine. You don't really care what happens. And you watch these huge forces dancing in the universe, going to war, coming to peace, dying, being born. And it's all good. You're at peace with it. I guess in a sense you feel so elated. It's like having won the contest. And with me, I guess I feel I've won the goal. Of allowing for the deepest that can happen to me happen. I'm unguarded. Whatever comes, comes. And sometimes it lies with me in silence. And we just feel the bliss of our existence. just like you can feel the bliss of your own existence. If you let go of all seeking and just come to rest in yourself, then your own sense of presence delights you. Your own self fills you with happiness. Now, are there any questions? Promise of things to come. I know Mark feels a lot of this.
Hello, Edgy. It's Claudine.
Yes.
Hi, hello. I thought you looked very different today. Straight away. I thought you looked very, very strong and handsome as well.
This is my true being, strong and happy and handsome.
And handsome, yeah. I wondered from wherever I'm at, whether it's a useful question to ask how I feel rather than who am I?
What is it? Try it again.
Whether it's useful to ask, how do I feel? I don't know whether that's what you mean by sentience. When you use the word sentience, I'm not quite sure what you. I mean, sometimes if I ask how I feel, then things come up that are probably hiding in there that I'm not.
But they come up whenever you put the focus of your attention on your own beingness. So you could say, how do I feel? But you could also say, what am I? Both the questions turn your attention around from being in the external world to being centered on one's own self-experience. So the question becomes, what of all that I feel is most closely related to me, the self? So when I first went to Mount Baldy, Sasaki would not let anybody take the koan, who am I? He said it was too complicated. You have to do it one step at a time. Start by studying the feelings in your foot, then your left leg, etc. Working your way up till you know the entirety of your beingness. But you're right in the sense that it's reacquiring feeling as opposed to mentation. It's not thinking about a subject and understanding a subject in cognitive terms, but just being silent and descending into your own self. The basic part of you that is alive, that is you, they could identify as you. The strange thing is, the more you study, the less you can identify with. It's all empty. It goes meaninglessly everywhere. The energies within you suddenly become very tangible because you're not paying that much attention to the external world compared with being in touch with your inner feelings. And it's a feeling of returning to the flesh and going downwards and descending into your own body through the brain. The brain gets cut off, your thinking gets cut off, and your presence sinks into your body, into your back, into your stomach, into your lower body. And you're no longer a talking head, but a silent body. immersed in your own wonderfulness. Isn't it incredible that you could find your own self-experience wonderful? Such a gift has always been available to you, at least from the time you turn 20 and become a complete human being, till the time you can rest in yourself and do nothing and feel very happy doing nothing. I guess you're doing nothing but allowing it to happen and witnessing the happening. Not as a person, but as part of a process of witnessing. Did any of what I said make any sense to you? Because this is a difficult area to talk in.
It makes me feel very happy what you're saying.
Good. What makes you feel happy?
Just being here and seeing you and feeling you like you are today.
Yeah. That's what we felt around Sansanim and also the other great teachers that I've had. It's just fun to be with them because we feel different. When we're with a master, we feel different. We can rest in our own self because that's what he or she wants of us, is to rest in your own self-experience.
Thank you.
Eric, rest in yourself. Don't wander away. Just be satisfied with yourself. And I can't tell you to be that because that'd be another burden to put on you. But I'm saying, if you were resting in your own sense of presence, you would have everything you ever wanted. The sense of presence is another thing. You know, if 50 years ago, I wouldn't know what that meant. But now it's everything that I know. My own sense of existing and of being available for communication, for love, for anything. And I'm resting in my own sense of presence, which you could say is like the life force within, but it's not the life force. But it's the beingness. One's own sense of being at the deepest level. And the life force operates through that. But you're aware of it. Now, Sansanim was this incredible bundle of energy with a voice maybe 4 or 5 times too large for his body and a very commanding presence. You could feel it to the bottom of your feet that this guy knew who he was and always had a smile and a welcoming attitude. And when he got angry, everybody in the ashram and for 3 buildings on either side of the ashram would know that's Roshi being angry. And people cowered from that being the butt of his anger. But it was just mercurial. It was there, then it wasn't there. And he was the same happy hunk of flesh as he was before he got happy, before he got angry. And that's the one we related to. But emotions were really strong with him. They were demonstrated in a very volcanic way. And he was totally satisfied with himself, totally at rest with himself. There was nothing he was trying to do or accomplish anymore. It was all spontaneous. He founded, I don't know how many Zen centers in his life, 10 of them maybe, in Korea, United States, and in Europe. And he traveled between them past the time when I knew him. When I knew him, he was spending a lot of time in Los Angeles, getting an ashram going here, and then appointing his students to run it after him, and he'd come back and visit once or twice a year. He was a bundle of energy, and yet at the same time, utterly silent. But when he went into action, the breadth of that action was so powerful. It was all about silence and concentration, getting to know yourself from the inside, where your sense of presence wasn't addressed to the world, but to itself. You getting to know your own sense of presence. And there's a peace so deep in that, a rest so deep in that everyone around you can experience it to a degree. Just like I hope you've been able to experience it now to a degree. Mark, have you any comments? I pick on Mark because he likes to talk.
I really enjoyed your layered reflections and answers to my vague and muddled question. So thank you very much. It was very entertaining and elucidating.
Well, thank you for asking it. Keep it up.
Thanks.
Eric, I'm getting a very strong hit from you today. What's going on with you?
Well, I really appreciated what you had to say about awe. I think so often, just coming to satsang and being here in a way, if there are questions, it has a way of answering those questions in not answering them, but like going prior to them and dissolving them because they're irrelevant when you have an experience of yourself.
Precisely. That's a very good way of putting it.
And I love this aspect of self-exploration that has a quality of awe to it. I think in the beginning, when I started practicing with a Zen center in Chicago, I would go and sit sesshin, and it was like it was because I was in a way suffering so much from being so caught up in delusive thoughts and, you know, the constriction of just being confused about myself. And then it slowly shifted. Like going to sesshin wasn't just an escape from the horrors of the mind. It was like sesshin was this deep exploration where you could just you could disappear on the mat and experience something else. And I'm often reminded of that when I sit on the mat and I disappear, and there's this beautiful experience of vastness or spaciousness or expansion or love, or like the bubbling up of bliss, or, you know, any of these things. And there's this awe to it. There's like this sense of curiosity and awe and bewilderment that is so precious. And so I just thank you for speaking about it in the way that you did, because we each have to discover that. And it's so pleasurable. And I think so often I don't have any questions because it would take away from that self-exploration of just allowing life to answer whatever questions there are through.
Or I would put it this way, to shut up and rest in yourself. And those questions disappear. And what you feel is the awe of experiencing the life force for what it is. It illuminates you, and you are awed by what you are, as well as the experience of the life force acting through you. And yet it's not divine. The life force is not divine. It's something else altogether, neither mundane nor divine. It's out of this world, different dimension. What are you in? I can't understand what you're in. Are you in a house or a vehicle, or what are you in? It looks like a bus.
It's a tiny little cabin, this little off-grid cabin that I rent for really very cheap, like almost nothing. So it allows me to travel. And I just spent 2 months at the Zen Center in Crestone, and I'll have to go back to work here pretty soon and save up to pay some bills. But yeah, I really love it. It's
Where is it located?
It's in Taos, New Mexico.
Kind of a magical place for you, huh?
Yeah. It's very quiet here. It's very silent here.
Good. Enjoy it while you can.
Thank you, Edgy.
That's what Roshi also used to say to us all the time. Enjoy it while you can. The bliss of being in a Zen center doing nothing but meditation and chanting and eating, doing nothing else, having nothing to do. Just enjoy yourself rather than to be thinking about what you have to do, because everything is planned for you in a monastery. Every action you do, from rising to sleeping to walking to ringing bells to sitting, it's all managed. And you don't have to do anything except to be aware. I want to thank you so much for coming today. Today has been rather strange for me. To have this violent stomachache going on for a couple of hours, then to have it go, to be in your presence, and to be able to talk about the very fundamental states of humanity and that we can experience of ourselves, and the peace and the sense of awe and wonderment that it brings constantly, every day. And how we can almost explode in it with a sense of joy and awe that we have. With that aside, I invite you to come back again next time, Wednesday, and we'll do this all over again. In the meantime, you can prepare a list of 2 questions. You hear that, Bernadette? I heard that. I see that smile. Yeah. I want a question from you.
Edgy, it's Sunday, the next one, not Wednesday.
Oh, today is Wednesday, huh?
Yep.
Well, what do you know? Since I'm no longer among the employed, every day is the same for me. The only thing that changes is television programming on the weekend is different than during the week. I love you all. Come back next time, whenever that is. Bye-bye.